I don't have a problem. Hello everyone and welcome to my backyard and welcome to my new car. Now usually when I get a new car I go somewhere to show it off, somewhere a little bit more exotic like an abandoned parking lot somewhere, but in this case this thing is so broken that I actually don't feel comfortable driving it anywhere at the moment, so we're here in front of my backyard shop instead. Now the story of how I ended up with this thing is actually kind of amusing. If you remember, I had a beloved 2006 Scion TC with a manual transmission that I've been fixing up for the last couple of months. I recently actually sold that to a high school senior who was really wanting a stick car to learn how to drive on. And after a brief test drive around my neighborhood, I was definitely not comfortable letting him drive it home, so I took him to a local mall parking lot and actually spent an hour teaching him how to drive. This meant that I was out in West Wichita with no way to get home, and so I bought this because Uber is just super inconvenient these days. Now what actually happened is a friend of mine owns a dealership and he had just taken this thing on trade earlier that same day, so I had the kid I sold the car to drop me off at his house so I could pick this up and take it home, and boy what a harrowing drive home it was for reasons that will become apparent later. But for those of you who are somehow unconscious during the entirety of the early 2000s, this is a Chrysler PT Cruiser, these days seen as a joke, but when it was new, this was one of the most desirable vehicles on the market. People were lining up like it was launch day for the new Xbox just to get a shot at getting their hands on one of these cars. Not this one specifically, this is the GT Turbo model, which didn't come out until 2003. I actually have a decent amount of family history with these. My grandparents had two, and my mother had a convertible automatic turbo model. But for me, it's all about this spec specifically. This is the turbo, it is the hardtop 4-door, and it is a 5-speed manual. But before we talk too much about mine specifically, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about the PT Cruiser in general, because they're actually kind of interesting vehicles. For example, did you know that this is a truck? No, I'm not joking. For the purposes of CAFE regulation compliance, this thing is technically classified as a light truck to help bring Chrysler's average fleet fuel economy down. And what's hilarious is that it's actually a wagon according to some paperwork, or a hatchback according to other paperwork, but according to the EPA, this is a truck. Bureaucracies are ridiculous. And to those of you who are jokingly referring to this as an HHR, you're not entirely wrong. This thing was penned and designed by Brian Nesbitt, who later went on to design the HHR, which is, in my opinion, the far superior vehicle. So on the surface, this is a bit of a confused vehicle, a bit of an odd one, and it certainly doesn't seem to have aged particularly well, but these GT Turbo models do have a bit of a secret, which is the beating heart of a Dodge Neon SRT4. Now, I come from a world of Mazdas and Fords where the difference between the naturally aspirated and the turbo versions of an engine is the addition of a turbo and not much else. But there's actually a whole lot of stuff that was done to this to bring it up from 100 and something horsepower to 205 horsepower and 245 foot-pounds of torque. That horsepower number went up to 225 in the later model years, but this is an early one. And here, in my notes, is a complete list of all of those changes. A reinforced crankcase, thicker deck, turbo oil drain, an aluminum oil pan with girdles, bigger oil pump, more durable crankshaft, oil squirters, male eutectic alloy pistons, forged connecting rods, larger valves, and better oil flow passageways in the heads. And of course, a turbo. All of this you got as a part of the GT package, which was in itself a package on top of the Limited. With the Limited, you got infinity speakers, leather heated seats, and a six-disc CD changer. The GT is also an inch lower, but it's hard to imagine this car sitting an inch higher. It's already fairly ridiculous. So yes, well and good. It's a turbo car, it's weird, and it was cheap. Now honestly, that all alone should explain to you why I bought this thing, but I guess we'll address the elephant in the room and take a look at all the rest of this. Now to my knowledge, the 2003 PT Cruiser GT was not offered in a two-tone paint job, so one of these colors was probably added later. Actually, the silver was. This car was originally black. But someone has spent an absolutely insane amount of money on this car. Let's go into walk around mode and I'll show you a little bit better. All right, holding the camera now, which means I can put my hand in my pocket, and it's pretty easy to see that there's a lot going on here. Someone put a ton of money into this PT Cruiser, starting from the front with this custom bumper, which is actually not a full bumper. It's just a cover that's been stuck over the factory bumper, which is hilarious. I think these lights are aftermarket, some deer whistles because of course the clear coat peel, I'm pretty sure that's factory actually. You've got this hilarious hood with non-functional hood vents. For an aftermarket hood, it actually fits phenomenally well, making me think that this is probably, I don't know, I'm thinking a company might have made this using genuine Chrysler hoods or something. Going a little further back, we have a Forte, not Force, Forte wheels. They're, I don't like them. I mean, it's pretty obvious that a lot of the stuff going on this car is meant to evoke the original intent of this car, which was kind of aping the cars of the late 30s or early mid 30s. And these are just Fast and Furious, except they're like knockoff Fast and Furious. It's something you'd buy at Walmart in 2009. I don't like it. They need to go. They also have the finest in cheap tire. What are these? Valera Sport All Seasons. Yeah, some good old Prime Wells on there. GT badge. I have no idea if that's factory or not, actually. I'm gonna guess not because it doesn't fit the curvature of the car at all. And we have a Xenon Body Kit here. Yeah, again, it doesn't really fit the look of the car. And also, back doors don't open because they hit the body kit. The fitment is atrocious, to say the least. Very fetching red stripe going down the edge here, and I absolutely love, I am such a sucker for these hood brims. I absolutely love them on the old conversion vans and the big Chevy trucks with all the fancy plastic stuff. I kind of love these things. Wind deflector for the sunroof. Carbon fiber appliques on the B and C pillars. Again, doesn't really go with the vibe of this car, but it looks like they stuck them on there because the black started turning to crap underneath. You can see it's looking a bit like an oil slick under there. If we keep moving back, we've got, yeah, it's the wheels again, and also slotted and cross-drilled brake rotors, which is great because then your cheap brake pads can dust even more. Aftermarket rear tail lights, kind of a lightly frosted thing going on there, and oh boy, the biggest piece of fiberglass you ever did see in your life, blocking out 80% of the rear window to just drive home the 20s, 30s look, and also a roll pan, which is amazing, and what appears to be some sort of aftermarket exhaust. So I haven't shown this angle before, but take a look. That's majestic. And then around on this side, it's more of the same, but we have even more clear coat fail, which is always a fun time. If we pop the hatch, there's a random steel wheel and tire. Not sure what that's about. There's a spare underneath the car, so that's something. It's got the cover, which interestingly looks like it has a bunch of different Oh! Table. What is table? It has legs integrated. Okay, so apparently this is a big time multifunction thing. That's pretty cool. We've got the back seats here. They do appear to be seats. I'd love to show you them from a better angle, but the doors don't open in the back. Looks like there's some speakers way back here in the C-pillar. A little bit of storage. Is there anything in here? That is deep. My arm goes way in there. Not a lot else. There's the jack. There's a 12-volt outlet. There's a light that doesn't seem to work. Yeah, look at this. You can put this multiple places. That's actually pretty cool. I'll have to play around with that a bit later, and you can see just how much of that window is being taken up by fiberglass. And also, these struts for this tailgate are not messing around. Let's take a look at some more of the custom touches to this car, which will be found under the hood. Behold, the Chrysler 2.4-liter turbo engine. It's nice and warm. It's about 20 degrees out here today, so I'm trying to get through this quickly. We have a K&N Typhoon intake system. Good. We have the throttle body spacer, and then we have an MSD coil and wire set. All three of these mods are kind of the trifecta of stuff that people do who don't really know what they're doing with car modifications. It also seems to have some sort of aftermarket alarm slash keyless entry system going on. I've got a couple of meep horns under there and some wires, and that is definitely not factory. That's let's see, Cat X4 by Code Alarm. It seems to work fairly okay, but the makes the locks do strange things sometimes. Moving on to the interior though. Oh boy, I really wanted to get in here where it's at least a little bit warmer. Yeah, it is super cold out there, but it's marginally warmer in here. But let's take a look around here. Of course, it's Chrysler. It's pretty Chrysler in here. I don't hate the layout of this interior all that much. The facelift was absolutely atrocious, but this is perfectly livable. There's a bunch of this interesting silver brush metal stuff stuck to everything, which is yeah, I can take that or leave it. We've got some actually fairly good condition black leather, heated leather even. The switch is right down here. Seats, these are power up and down only. All other adjustments are manual. Nice kind of retro steering wheel, which I don't entirely hate. Couple of stalks, cruise control that works some of the time. Radio with the six-disc changer, I still can't say that. And manual controls, there's no, that is moving the blend door right there. There's no motors involved. Auto down in the front, manual down in the rear. A simply ridiculous number of cup holders. You've got two here, then one behind it, and then one a little further back with the rear window controls for the back just behind there to make running the wires easier, I suppose, which is interesting. Also, the world's least ergonomic handbrake. If I put this down, first off, the car starts rolling down because my driveway is not flat, but you put it down and my hand runs into the shift boot. I'm not sure if you can see that. And then it goes down a little bit further. So to grab it, you have to just kind of work your fingers under there, and then you can pull it up. Very strange. Also in this car, we have this cue ball shifter, which is mounted to a Hurst short shifter, which is absolutely terrible. Where are the gears? You don't know. They're around there somewhere. It's just bad. I don't like most short shifters. They just make the driving experience worse. Like getting from first to second, you can't go any faster than that. It's not great. I have heard that these cars have some shifting issues with the factory shifter, but this junk is just not helping. Up on the roof, you've got a sunroof, of course. Sunroof controls. This is a compass slash, I believe it's the outside temperature reading, and a very basic mirror. Not a whole lot else going on in here. The back seats are pretty basic. Not a whole lot of luxuries or features back there to talk about. The seats up here are comfortable, but I just don't love this seating position. It feels kind of like I'm sitting on a bar stool, though the height is really, really easy to get in and out of, which is what old people like about these things. But there's one thing about this car that I haven't talked about yet, and that's exactly what is broken, so far at least. And so far I've identified three major things, possibly four. The first one is that there's got to be some sort of huge boost leak. This thing is making absolutely no power. You can put your foot in it and it just does nothing, and then sometimes it'll just run out of revs at 3,500 and feel like it's making no power past that. So obviously that's a problem. I expect that a coupler is blown off of a charge pipe or something like that. The other issue is there's a lot of vibration. I think this has a trash motor mount somewhere, probably, is just what it feels like. It vibrates all of the time. There's also a ton of play in the steering wheel, and the car just kind of fights you all the time. It mostly seems to want to pull to the left. I'm guessing that the inner tie rods or outer tie rods or all of the above are desperately in need of replacement, though this does only have 120,000 miles on it, making this the lowest mileage vehicle that I currently own. Whether that's sad or a good thing is entirely up to you, but I'm leaning towards sad. And then there's also the issue of the cruise control not working, which might just work itself out at some point. Who knows? But that's enough talking about how broken this thing is. Let's go experience it together and take this thing for a spin around the block as soon as I go change my just about to die camera battery. Always be prepared. It does not start that easy when it hasn't been running. This thing hates life. I'm not entirely sure what this exhaust is, but I don't hate how it sounds. I stayed pretty close to my house for this video because, well, the less I drive this car with that huge vacuum leak, the better. I can't imagine that's good for anything. What's interesting though is that other than the tie rods, the transmission mount, and that the glove box just opened all on its own because this is shaking so bad from the combination of everything. Oh, okay, we're rolling. Other than those issues, this actually feels quite solid. You know, with 124,000 miles, it's not all too bad. Let's get out on the road here. Okay, are you ready for the most ridiculous noises ever? Now, let me be clear, that sounded like a lot happened just then, but nothing did. We almost hit 40. None of that boost is making it into the engine, and it sounds like all of the noise is coming from right at my feet, which is about where the turbo is. Which is why I'm pretty certain that the charge pipe has blown off the turbo. And something I've learned since I got this is that basically every single one of my friends at one point owned a 400 wheel horsepower SRT4 Neon, and they've all been giving me advice and offering assistance with this car because the goal here is to leave it all boomered up, leave all the dumb mods on it because they are so hilarious and over the top that it would be an absolute crime to get rid of them. Maybe fix the fitment on the side skirts so that they're usable and ditch the cheap wheels. I'm thinking Steelies with half moons. And then make it fast. I'm thinking stage 2 because, like I said, this has a brand new turbo and it'd kind of be a shame to throw that away. And you can go pretty far with a stage 2 on E85. Which makes me think that might be the move. I think you can get about 350 wheel horsepower, which should be able to give the gap to quite a few cars, 350Zs and whatnot, because, I mean, this is kind of the most embarrassing thing to lose to at the drag strip that I can think of. Chrysler electrical issues already rearing their ugly head. Sounds like the turn signal relay is going bad. So that's the plan. Leave a comment on what you think of it, and be sure to subscribe because I'm going to go straight home, change, get this thing in the garage, and start fixing it. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to like, comment, hit the bell, all that stuff. It really helps the metrics. I spent a decent amount of money on this video and I need to make some of it back. I'm gonna go to Quick Trip and get myself a root beer. Thanks for watching. Make good choices, please. Better than mine, at least.